Your Social Security check is about to change in ways that'll affect your daily budget. And what's coming isn't exactly the good news you've been hoping for. The Social Security Administration just confirmed a 2.8% cost of living adjustment for 2026, which means the average retired worker will see about $56 more per month starting in January. That sounds decent at first until you look at what's happening on the Medicare side of things. Medicare Part B premiums are jumping 9.6% to $22.90 per month, an increase of $17.90, and the annual deductible is climbing 10% to $283. Here's the real kick in the teeth. That Medicare premium gets deducted straight from your Social Security check before you even see it. When you do the math, the net increase in your monthly Social Security check drops to just $38.10 after Medicare takes its cut. Nearly a third of your cost of living raise vanishes right out of the gate. This marks the second highest Part B premium increase in program history, and it's hitting at exactly the wrong time. In this video, we're breaking down exactly how these changes will affect your monthly budget, what deductions you need to watch for, and the specific dollar amounts you can expect to see when your January payment arrives. No fluff, no confusion, just the real numbers that matter to your wallet. Now, let me explain exactly what's happening here because the numbers tell a story that every person collecting Social Security needs to understand. We're talking about real money leaving your pocket. And this isn't just some abstract government policy change. This is your monthly budget we're discussing. The Social Security Administration confirmed that starting January 2026, benefits will increase by 2.8% across the board. For the average retiree, that translates to about $56 more per month. Your check goes from $2.15 to $2.71. Now, when you first hear that, it might sound like good news. An extra $56 a month adds up to $672 over the course of the year. That could cover a few extra trips to see the grandkids, maybe help with some of those prescription costs, or just give you a little breathing room in your monthly budget. But here's where things get complicated, and this is the part that nobody is really explaining in simple terms. The Medicare Part B premium that gets taken straight out of your Social Security check before you even see it is jumping to $22.90 per month in 2026. That's up $17.90 from the $185 you're paying right now. And remember, this isn't a bill you get in the mail that you can decide when to pay. This money disappears from your Social Security check automatically every single month before the deposit even hits your bank account. So let's do the math together here. The real math that affects your actual take-home amount, you're getting a $56 increase from Social Security. But Medicare is taking an extra $17.90 out of that same check. When you subtract that Medicare premium increase from your cost of living adjustment, you're left with just $3,810 more per month in actual spending money. That's it. Nearly a third of your raise is gone before you can use it for anything else. Think about what that means in practical terms. Instead of having an extra $56 to spend on groceries, gas, or utilities, you're really only getting $38. That's barely enough to fill up your gas tank once a month these days. And we're not done yet because there's another piece to this puzzle that hits you even harder. The annual deductible for Medicare Part B is climbing to $283 in 2026, up from $257 this year. That's a $26 jump. Now, this isn't something that comes out of your monthly check like the premium does, but it's money you have to pay out of pocket before Medicare starts covering your doctor visits and outpatient care. That deductible increase represents a 10% jump, which is significantly higher than the cost of living adjustment you're getting from Social Security. Here's what really gets under my skin about this whole situation. This marks the second highest Part B premium increase in the entire history of the Medicare program. We're not talking about some minor adjustment here. The only time it went up more was back in 2022 when it jumped by $2,160. What makes this particularly frustrating is the timing. Inflation has been hammering everyday Americans for years now, and just when you think you're getting a little relief with a cost of living increase, healthcare costs come along and snatch most of it away. Let me break down what this looks like over the course of a full year, because monthly numbers don't always tell the complete story. That $38 net increase you're seeing each month adds up to $456 for the entire year. Compare that to what you would have had if Medicare premiums had stayed flat. You would have pocketed the full $672. The difference between those two numbers is $214.80 that's going straight to healthcare costs instead of staying in your wallet. For a lot of folks living on fixed incomes, that's a significant chunk of money. That could be a month's worth of groceries for some people, or several months of utility bills, or the difference between being able to afford your medications or having to make tough choices. Now, I want to talk about something that most people don't realize is even happening, and that's how this affects different groups of people differently. There's this thing called the hold harmless provision that's built into Social Security law, and it's supposed to protect you from situations exactly like this. Under the hold harmless rules, your Medicare Part B premium increase cannot be larger than your cost of living adjustment if you meet certain requirements. Eligibility is limited to those who have their Part B premiums deducted directly from their Social Security benefits and who don't pay a higher premium because of their income. But here's the thing. Only eligible recipients whose monthly Social Security benefit is $639 or less will be protected from the full premium increase by the hold harmless rule this year. Since the Part B premium increase is $17.90 and the cost of living allowance is 2.8%. If your benefit is that low, congratulations, you're protected. But let's be honest, if your Social Security check is only $639 a month, you're already struggling to make ends meet. And this protection just means you won't fall even further behind. It doesn't actually help you get ahead or even keep up with rising costs in other areas of your life. For everyone else, which is the vast majority of Social Security recipients, you're going to feel the full impact of both increases. Your check goes up by that 2.8%, and your Medicare premium jumps by the full $1,790. There's no protection, no cushion, no government safety net preventing your net take-home pay from taking this hit. And we need to talk about what's driving these Medicare premium increases, because understanding the why helps you see where things might be headed in the future. The increase in the 2026 Part B standard premium and deductible is mainly due to projected price changes and assumed utilization increases that are consistent with historical experience. In plain English, that means Medicare expects healthcare costs to keep going up, and they expect people to use more healthcare services. As the population ages and medical treatments get more expensive, this trend isn't going away. If anything, it's likely to accelerate. There's one interesting detail worth mentioning because it actually could have been worse. The Trump administration took action to address unprecedented spending on skin substitutes, which are used for wound care. And because of changes finalized in the 2026 physician fee schedule, spending on skin substitutes is expected to drop by 90% without affecting patient care. If this action hadn't been taken, the Part B premium increase would have been about $11 more per month. So instead of paying $214 per month for Part B, you'd be paying around $225. The fact that we're supposed to feel grateful that the increase is only $17.90 instead of almost $30 shows you how backwards this whole system has become. Let's talk about timing, because this matters more than you might think. Payments with the 2026 cost of living adjustment will start in January for nearly 71 million Social Security beneficiaries. Your specific payment date depends on when you were born. Those born between the 1st and 10th day of the month will receive their checks on the second Wednesday, which is January 14th, 2026. People born between the 11th and 20th will get their payment on the third Wednesday, January 21st. And if you were born between the 21st and 31st, your payment arrives on the fourth Wednesday, January 28th. Mark these dates on your calendar right now because you'll want to check your bank account and verify that the numbers match what you're expecting. Here's something that catches a lot of people by surprise. If you're one of the approximately 8% of Medicare beneficiaries whose income is high enough to trigger what's called the Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount, or IRMA, you're going to pay even more than the standard premium. In 2026, Medicare beneficiaries with an income exceeding $19,000 for single tax filers and $218,000 for joint filers will pay the surcharge with total monthly Part B premiums ranging from $28,410 to $689.90. And here's the kicker. The hold harmless provision doesn't protect you at all if you're subject to you pay the full freight no matter what. One thing that really needs to be said here is that the Senior Citizens League Executive Director Shannon Benton stated that the 2026 COLA is going to hurt for seniors, arguing year after year that Social Security's meager increases won't be enough. And you know what? The numbers back that up completely. When you look at what seniors actually spend their money on, housing, healthcare, food, utilities, these costs have been rising faster than the general inflation rate for years. Some economists note that a 2.8% increase is modest, especially for retirees whose cost increases may be higher in areas such as healthcare, housing, or other retirement-specific expenses. Think about your own situation for a moment. When's the last time your property taxes, your homeowner's insurance, or your prescription drug costs only went up by 2.8%? For most people, those increases have been much steeper. Your grocery bill probably hasn't stayed within 2.8% either. Ground beef that used to cost $3 a pound now runs you $6 or $7. A dozen eggs that used to be $1.50 can hit $4 or more depending on where you live and what's happening in the supply chain. These are the real-world costs that eat into your budget every single day. And let's address the elephant in the room: Social Security's long-term financial health. You've probably heard rumblings about the trust fund running short of money. The latest projections show some concerning trends, and every time Congress passes legislation that increases benefits for some people, like the recent Social Security Fairness Act, or reduces revenue coming into the system, like the new senior tax deduction, it puts more pressure on an already strained system. I'm not saying this to scare you. Your benefits aren't going to disappear overnight. But it's important to understand that the political decisions being made today will affect your financial security tomorrow. Speaking of taxes, there's actually a small piece of potentially good news buried in all this. There's a new senior deduction that was included in recent tax legislation that could help reduce how much federal income tax you pay on your Social Security benefits. The new deduction will reduce taxable income by up to $6,000 for eligible taxpayers who are at least 65 years old at the end of 2025, with individual filers having a modified adjusted gross income up to $75,000 or married couples filing jointly with a combined mega of up to $150,000 qualifying. This won't help everyone, and it doesn't change the Medicare premium situation. But if you fall within those income limits, it could mean keeping more of your Social Security benefits instead of sending them to the IRS. Now, if you're still working while collecting Social Security and you're under your full retirement age, you need to pay close attention to the earnings limits because they've changed for 2026. The earnings limit for workers who are younger than full retirement age will increase to $24,480, meaning Social Security deducts $1 from benefits for each $2 earned over that amount. That's an increase from $23,400 in 2025, but it's not a huge jump. If you're working part-time or doing some consulting work to make ends meet, you need to keep careful track of your earnings because going over this limit can temporarily reduce your benefits. For people reaching their full retirement age in 2026, the earnings limit is more generous at $65,160 with Social Security deducting $1 in benefits for every $3 earned above that threshold. Once you reach your full retirement age, these earnings limits disappear completely and you can make as much as you want without affecting your Social Security benefits. Let me give you some context about how this 2.8% increase compares to recent years because perspective matters. The cost of living adjustment averaged about 2.6% over the last 20 years. It was 2.5% in 2025, 3.2% for 2024, and the COLA hit 8.7% in 2023, which was the highest in 4 decades following the surge in inflation after the COVID pandemic. So this year's 2.8% is pretty close to the historical average, but that doesn't mean it's adequate. The historical average itself has consistently failed to keep pace with the actual costs seniors face. Here's what really matters at the end of the day. You need to sit down and look at your actual budget with these new numbers in mind. Don't just assume everything will work out fine. Pull out your bank statements, Look at what you're actually spending each month and figure out where that reduced increase is going to impact you. Maybe you can cut back on dining out. Maybe you need to shop at a different grocery store or switch to generic brands for more items. Maybe you've got to have a tough conversation with your kids about reducing the amount of financial help you've been providing. The reality is that some economists expect inflation to keep inching up next year, driven in part by higher tariffs on imported goods, which could impact prices for a wide range of items from cars to home construction to toys. If that happens, this 2.8% increase is going to feel even more inadequate as the year goes on. You might start out in January feeling like things are manageable, but by the time you get to June or September, you could be falling further behind. I want to emphasize something important here. This information isn't meant to make you feel helpless or hopeless. It's meant to empower you with knowledge so you can make informed decisions about your finances. When you understand exactly what's happening with your money, you can plan accordingly. You can make adjustments. You can advocate for yourself and push your elected representatives to do better by America's seniors. One more thing you should know, Social Security will be sending notifications about your new benefit amount by mail starting in early December. Those who have a personal My Social Security account can view their COLA notice online, which is secure, easy, and faster than receiving a letter in the mail. You can set up text or email alerts when a new message such as your COA notice is available. I highly recommend setting up that online account if you haven't already. It gives you faster access to important information and lets you manage your Social Security business without having to wait on hold on the phone or visit an office in person. The bottom line is this. Yes, you're getting a raise in January, but after Medicare takes its cut, you're only seeing about 2/3 of that increase actually show up as spendable money in your bank account. The Medicare Part B premium increase of nearly 10% is eating up almost a third of your cost of living adjustment, and the deductible increase is another hit you'll feel when you need medical care. This isn't the end of the world, but it's definitely not the good news story that some headlines might make it seem. You need to understand these numbers, plan your budget accordingly, and make sure you're not caught off guard when that January payment shows up smaller than you expected.